Derek Riggs is a British artist from Portsmouth, England, born in 1958. Derek was a self-taught cartoonist since childhood. Like many children, he was in love with the comics and drawings of Jack Kirby, father of the Captain America, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and many others. He also liked horror movies and books from the 60s and 70s. And these influences would be reflected in his future works. He decided to study fine arts at the university, a place that he left shortly after feeling misunderstood. In his search for a style of his own, he began experimenting with numbers of designs while freelancing doing covers for London Records Company. In one of many works he presented, there was a painting entitled Electric Matthew Says Hello, which was actually painted for a punk album cover. The look of this character was an exaggerated vision of all those punk clichés represented on an angry monster with a torn shirt. That peculiar piece caught the attention of music manager Rod Smallwood, who was looking for an image that would identify a new band called Iron Maiden that he was representing and that was about to release their first album. Smallwood later said the members of the band were very shy, so we had to invent a creature that stand up for them. The band adopted the creature after making a few minor modifications. They add more hair to make him look less punk and renamed him Eddie. This name was originally from a mask they used in stage backdrops. Eddie's first appearance was on the cover of the single Running Free. On this cover, his face was not visible. It was until the release of the album when the mascot that would represent the band to this day could be seen. With an exclusive contract, Derek Riggs would spend much of the 80s illustrating Eddie in several ways. A year after the release of the first album, the second would arrive, Killers, the last album with the frontman Paul Di'Anno. The cover had a smiling Eddie with a bloody axe. In the background, there is a block of flats. This background was inspired by the buildings where Riggs himself lived in those times. But it would be with the third album when things would change drastically. Iron Maiden, with a new singer, would go from being a promising band of the new wave of British heavy metal to being one of the main exponents of the genre, hand in hand with the creation of Derek Riggs, a monster that would begin his path to immortality. The cover was originally created for the song Purgatory from the last album, but Rod Smallwood thought it was too good for a single release and decided to save it for the Number of the Beast. For the following album, Derek Riggs would represent Eddie lobotomized, then as an Egyptian pharaoh, and for the Somewhere in Time album, as a cyborg in a futuristic Blade Runner-inspired environment. This work is one of the most complex made by Riggs, with a huge amount of detail and reference to previous Iron Maiden albums and songs. It also contains little visual jokes and reference added by the artist. It took him 3 months to complete the painting. The process wore him out completely, as he underestimated the complexity of the artwork, and said he would never paint anything this convoluted ever again. From then on, the covers of Iron Maiden were gaining popularity as the group expanded its legend. The covers of Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seven Song of a Seven Song, or No Prayer for the Dying were a success, creating merchandising of Eddie as t-shirts, pins, patches, posters, keyring, even Christmas cards. But little by little, some creative tension was growing between the illustrator and the band, mainly with the manager, Rod Smallwood. The cover of Fear of the Dark in 1992 was the breaking point between Derek Riggs and Iron Maiden. His ideas were rejected as they want to update Eddie from the 80s comic style to a more realistic horror. Derek Riggs was always jealous of the originality of his art, and there began the tensions. He was annoyed that the ideas put forward by the band's musicians were copied from popular movies or books. The illustrator spent long hours sketching dozens of original concepts that were discarded, while they proposed ideas that he detested. And that's how, in the 90s, Derek Riggs stopped being Iron Maiden's main illustrator, although he did some single, live, and compilation album covers. Nothing will ever be the same between them. But Derek did not start working. With the fame he had acquired being the cover artist of one of the most famous heavy metal bands, many required his services. Bands like Destiny, Stratovarius, Gamma Ray put Rick's art on their records. Even Bruce Dickinson hired him for the cover of his solo album, Accident of Birth. At that time, less and less illustration was made with their usual oil and acrylic painting techniques, and it seemed that digital art became his main resource. But this was not only for an artistic decision. After years of using paints and associated products that contained, ironically, heavy metals, this led to health problems, so he focused mostly on digital, but without losing his particular style of character design. In the year that followed, he also worked on book covers, advertising, and he even went back to work with Iron Maiden on a few covers for a single and a compilation album. He's living in Riverdale County, California. He often attends conventions where he interacts with his fans, who are excited to get an autograph, a small drawing, or simply admire the art that has endured through generations. From the father of the most iconic creature in heavy metal. Thorgerson was born in Potters Bar, Middlesex, and he attended the Cambridgeshire High School for Boys with Pink Floyd future founders Syd Barrett and Roger Waters, with whom he played rugby at the school. Then he studied English and philosophy at the University of Leicester, graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree with honors, before studying film and television at the Royal College of Art, where he graduated with a Master of Arts degree. Thorgerson's goal was to be a filmmaker. However, several friends, including Roger Waters, who had already founded Pink Floyd, invited him to make record design, and from that moment, he decided to dedicate himself entirely to graphic arts. By 1968, he founded an agency specialized in design and illustrations called Hipgnosis, which Stuart Thorgerson created with other friends. They slowly began to gain fame for creating innovative rock album covers during the 60s. A Saucer Full of Secrets by Pink Floyd was the first cover the agency created. This work marked the beginning of a fruitful and long relationship with the British band. And it would be with the cover of Dark Side of the Moon that they would gain international recognition that they were looking for. After that cover came Wish You Were Here, Animals, and a collection of great dance songs. Storm Thorgerson and Hipgnosis then started getting more work, and Thorgerson designs became the top choice in the rock music industry. According to experts, it is estimated that they create 180 covers, among which those of the bands AC/DC, Peter Gabriel, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, and Yes. Despite the success of the group of professionals, by 1983 they broke up, and Thorgerson continued his work becoming the exclusive designer of Pink Floyd and other bands. Something that defines Storm Thorgerson designs is that they were quirky and surreal. At some point during his life, he even said that he was inspired by artists such as Man Ray, Magritte, Picasso, Ansel Adams, and Salvador Dalí. Surrealism was present from his beginnings, and little by little it was adding elements, the use of illustration, photograph, and very few retouches. He had the idea of manufacturing reality above reality. Storm Thorgerson's style was to create life-size mock-up images, so much so that his work often exceeded the recording budget of an entire album, but the band recovered it with sales of it. In 2003, Thorgerson suffered a stroke, from which he was partially paralyzed. He was later diagnosed with cancer, which eventually led to his death in London on April 18, 2013, at the age of 69. After Thorgerson's death, David Gilmour released a statement describing him as a constant force in my life, both at work and in private, a shoulder to cry on, a great friend. A post on the official Pink Floyd website called him a graphic genius. Storm Thorgerson was an important part of the music industry. That part that has nothing to do with sound, but with the visual. He gave the most emblematic albums of his time a face to remember, with designs that continue to influence our time.
Sorry to interrupt, but before we go on with this compilation video, I want to announce the winners of the Incal Infinite board game giveaway. Congratulations to the winners. Please get in touch with me via the email shown on the screen so we can arrange to send the game to your addresses.
Born in 1946 in New London, Connecticut, Ken Kelly practically came into our world with a pencil in his hand. He started drawing from a very early age. He started taking art lessons in 4th grade and continued through grade school and high school. Ken was introduced to art by his teacher, Mrs. Valerius. This was the beginning of a relationship that would last for the next 9 years. Mrs. Valerius gave Ken the direction he needed. She showed him how to develop and put to use his natural talent. She taught him the principles of art, After finishing high school, set his brushes aside to join the Marines at the age of 18 as he had always dreamed. For the next 4 years, he found himself touring around the world, serving both at Guantanamo Bay and Vietnam. During his service to his country, he even got to use his art skills. While he was in Cuba, he did all the illustration for the US magazine The Gizmo Gazette. He completed his 4-year term in 1968 and returned home to New York. During the next year, Ken's life would veer further into the realms of fantasy art. He decided to go to the studio of Frank Frazetta and show him some of his own drawings. Frazetta liked what he saw and encouraged him to pursue a career in commercial art. At the same time, he also invited Ken to study under him. Ken accepted Frank's offer. Under the guidance of Frazetta, Ken was able to fine-tune his skill even further. Frazetta stressed how important it was to put feeling into creating a painting and to let the action on the canvas come from the imagination. Later that same year, Ken received his first professional assignment. Before he turned the painting in, he took it to Frazetta to get his approval. Frank did not think that the woman in the painting had a terrifying enough expression on her face, so he painted over her old face with a new one of his own, which he felt worked better. Now it was ready to be turned in. That painting was done for Warren's Vampirella magazine and is titled The Lurking Terror. Then, in 1969, he entered the book cover field and has since worked for just about every major publishing house. Ken has done work for some of the best-selling authors in the field, including an outstanding series for Robert E. Howard and the complete series of Robert Adams' famous Horse Clan novels. In the 70s, he started doing a lot of album covers, including 2 paintings for Kiss for the albums Destroyer and Love Guns. In case of Destroyer, Kelly's original version of the album cover was rejected by the record company because they felt the scene was too violent, looking with the rubble and flames. The front cover shows the group striding on top of a pile of rubble and a desolate background spot with destroyed buildings, some of which are engulfed in flames. The back cover shows a similar scene but with more buildings on fire. Another of the emblematic albums in which he participated as an illustrator of the cover is the mythical Rising by Rainbow, the band of Ritchie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio. But without a doubt, the group that has benefited most from the incredible talent of the Connecticut artist is the heavy metal band Manowar. This group has 6 albums with Kelly's art on its cover. The first was Fighting the War, which would mark a long relationship between the artist and the band. These covers are notably influenced by Ken Kelly's own art for Conan the Barbarian, and you can think of Manowar without thinking of these covers. They are closely related to the image of heavy metal. The world of video games were also lucky to have Kelly's creativity, since he made the cover of Witch Haven, a dark fantasy first-person shooter developed by Capstone Software in 1995. Its sword and sorcery-themed story tasks the Knight Roundabout with a quest to seek out and destroy a lair of witches in their titular fortress, fighting hordes of hostile monsters along the way. Obviously, the game fits perfectly with his style. He even did the packaging art for the Micronauts toys. The toy line consists of 3.75-inch tall action figures, which were known for their high number articulation points relative to other toys of similar size and scale. The toy line also includes vehicles, robots, play sets, and accessories. In his last year, he developed the artwork for Cohit and Coimbra's album Good Apollo and Burning Star 4 Volume 2 No War for Tomorrow. And painting of his was used as the cover art for Alabama Thunder Pussy's 2007 release Open Fire. With the good relationship he had with Kiss, the band invited him to the Kiss by Monster mini golf course in Las Vegas, Nevada, doing autographs, singing prints for the classic Kiss albums he drew cover artwork for. On June 3, 2022, Ken Kelly died at the age of 76. People whose careers were touched by his art expressed their condolences. Paul Stanley, the Kiss frontman, said, "A moment to remember the great Ken Kelly. His fantasy art captured the larger-than-life image of Kiss perfectly. Rest in peace." Richie Blackmore expressed, "He was a very nice man, very easy to work with. I gave him a simple idea, which he turned into a magical picture. He shall be greatly missed." And of course, the band he worked with the most, Manowar, uploaded the following statement on their Instagram account. "We are saddened to hear of the passing of our brother, Ken Kelly. No word can express what a terrible loss this is, not only for Manowar and the metal community, but for the world. He was a great artist and friend. Ken will forever be remembered through his art and through his deed. Our deepest condolences go out to his family. Without a doubt, he and his art will be remembered. We just hope that in the place where he is now will be as beautiful and imaginative as the world that he created in his canvases."
Roger Dean was born in Ashford, Kent, on August 31, 1944. However, his childhood was marked by frequent relocation in places like Greece, Cyprus, and Hong Kong, accompanying his father, an engineer of the British Army. As a child, Roger had a strong interest in natural history. While he was in Hong Kong, Chinese landscape art had a significant impact on him, serving as particular sources of inspiration. The family eventually settled back in England in 1959, and he enrolled in the grammar school of Ashford. His educational journey continued in 1968 when he successfully completed his studies and obtained his graduation from the Royal College of Art. As part of his research in this institution, he explored the psychology of architecture and sought to understand what factors contributed to people's comfort within buildings. His thesis focused on creating a feeling of tranquility in residential architecture. One of Dean's initial success didn't come from his work as an illustrator, but from his role as an industrial designer. In 1967, as part of his research at the Royal College, he crafted a chair known as the Sea Urchin chair. In the subsequent year, he secured a patent for this creation. This chair is regarded as a forerunner to the beanbag, as it can be compressed and perfectly mold itself to the user's shape and size. The chair's design was finalized while Dean was among a select group of students chosen by renowned designer Cheryl Shear to design and craft objects in her factory. Interestingly, the chair remains one of Shear's personal favorites, and it has earned a place in the permanent collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum. Years later, Roger Dean was enlisted to create a logo for the independent record label Fly Records. This initial project led him to collaborate on a singles cover for the musician Mark Bolan, where he was responsible for crafting the typography. To ensure precision, Dean worked alongside a graphic designer who helped guide the printing team in placing the letters. The positive response to Dean's distinctive handwriting style prompted him to handwrite text for additional Bolan singles. The enthusiasm and support from the label's staff boosted Dean's confidence in continuing his hand-drawn approach, extending it to logos and various graphic projects. In 1968, Roger Dean embarked on his illustration journey. His initial projects include crafting the artwork for The Gun and contributing to the album cover for Atomic Roosters in Hearing Off. During the same year, Dean was commissioned to design the cover for the debut album of the African-Caribbean band Osibisa, a striking creation that melded elements of insects and elephants. This album cover hinted at the distinctive style that would later make him famous. Shortly thereafter, he commenced collaborations with prominent progressive rock bands, most notably Yes and Asia, establishing his reputation. His first work for Yes was on their album Fragile. He pitched a story on a creation myth rather than a particular image for it, about a child who dreamed they were living on a planet that was breaking up, so they had to build a space ark to find another planet to live on, and they towed all the little bits of the planet with them. Notably, he introduced the iconic Yes logo, which made its debut on the album Close to the Edge.
There is a very close link between our sound and Roger's art.
In the case of the band Asia, Roger Dean was highly influential in shaping the visual identity of the group. One of the most notable contributions for this band was his design for the band's debut album, released in 1982. The cover art depicted a fantastical landscape, characteristic of Dean's signature style. Roger Dean's illustration is renowned for his ability to create surreal and otherworldly landscapes. His artwork often features floating islands, intricate rock formations, exotic creatures, and organic, flowing shapes. These landscapes transport viewers to a dreamlike and fantastical realms, blurring the line between reality and fantasy. Dean frequently employs a rich and harmonious color palette, which enhances the sense of wonder in his work. Vivid blues, greens, and purples often dominate his pieces, creating a sense of depth and tranquility. His designs often incorporate flowing, interconnected forms that give a sense of unity and cohesion to the entire composition. These flowing shapes can be seen in the architecture, flora and fauna within his artwork. Nature is a recurring theme in Dean's work. His art frequently features natural elements such as water, rocks, and lush vegetation. He often combines these elements with futuristic and surreal elements. His work sometimes includes fantastical creatures and characters that inhabit his surreal landscapes, adding an element of storytelling and mythology to his art. Along with his work with album covers, Roger Dean also did illustrations for several video game covers such as Bratacus, Terrorbots, Chrono Quest, Shadow of the Beasts, among many others. And of course, with such as exuberant talent, this English artist has several books compiling his works, including Views in 1975. This book is full of sketches and finished works covering the first 7 years of his career. Almost 10 years later, Magnetic Storm was published. This book showcases the collaborative work of Roger Dean and his brother Martin, created between 1975 and 1984, a book that spans a wide range of creations, from airplane liveries and illustrations of the War of the World to video game art and drawings of sustainable architecture. And in 2008 was published The Dragon's Dream, which is a fantastic set of fantastical landscapes that includes selection from his Paleolithic series, futuristic depictions, and portraits of a whole series of monsters, robots, and warriors. This influence extends beyond album cover art. His style, which blends organic and futuristic elements, has inspired other visual artists to explore similar themes in their work. His unique approach to creating otherworldly landscapes has encouraged to experiment with their artistic expression. This use of typography and lettering in his art has had an impact on graphic design and branding. His ability to seamlessly integrate text into his compositions has set a standard for how lettering can be an integral part of design. His art has left a mark on popular culture, especially in the realm of science fiction and fantasy. His surreal and fantastical worlds have been referenced in various forms of media, including movies, video games, and literature. Roger Dean's art has made a profound impact on album cover design, progressive rock music, visual art, graphic design, and various facets of popular culture. His ability to transport viewers to otherworldly realms and create a sense of wonder has become one of those illustrators of reference for the general public as well as for the other illustrators who came after him.